going forward, so as you mentioned, like different kind of things can be asked, like, but what are the some resources or things that you would like to suggest if somebody want to crack some interviews in this autonomous space or the robotic space or the AI space? I know these are very different concepts right now, but like some of the resources that are very fruitful for you, that worked out very better for you, or maybe that you definitely want to recommend.
So the truth is that there is no cohesive resource out there that they can go to. That's the truth. Okay. I mean, there are like nano degree programs from Udacity and things like that, which are like very long tail. I don't really recommend that. And they cost a lot of money as well, right? Like for students. So one of the things I was working on is, or I am working on, it'll take like a couple more months now, but I am working on is a sort of streamlined course or like a coaching program where if someone is like from computer science or data science or like whatever very specific niche area, I will partner. I usually partner. I am looking for partners in the industry that are data scientists or software engineers and things like that in the autonomous space, and working with them to creatively craft coursework that specifically helps in not like the general, like how the world works kind of thing, but specifically helps in, okay, here's what they've learned or have experience in, and this is all that happens in the self-driving space. So what is this gap? How do you bridge this gap, right? So that course has the specific elements that will help them use this for this by filling that gap, right? So that is something I'm actively working on to fill that gap.
Yeah, I think the best way would be if you can share the link, and I can put the link in the description, maybe, or comment section below, so that audience who are maybe watching this video a couple of months down the line, they can at least reach out to your resources, or maybe land on some page which has a title coming soon or something like that. So maybe they can expect that. And maybe what you are doing is something which is very great and forthcoming. So yeah, audience, if you are listening in and you want to check out the course is soon dropping, you can check out the link in the description box below and the comment section as well. I will be sharing that as soon as it drops. And yeah, Simon, back to you. So since you mentioned these are the things, but generally robotics as a space, or I feel this industry in general, with coupled with AI or autonomous vehicle and everything, is outside the scope of India. What I have felt, generally there are lesser companies or lesser opportunities in this space currently in India, but the world, as in the global, is moving in that direction, where I see Euro regions or US regions advancing very well in that sector. So how can one make the transition from moving from India to like place like US, or what are the difficulties that you faced, or what are the things that you did that made it easier?
Yeah. There's two questions actually that I want to answer there. One is like, okay, it's happening in the rest of the world, but what about countries like India, right? Like, will it happen? When will it happen if it happens? And what are the driving factors that actually, I think will make it happen, right? That's one. And then obviously we can talk about like how you can move out of India into other places as well. That's a relatively well explored topic already, but let me focus on this one. So I think the economic incentives need to line up for any robotics sort of application to proliferate, right? So for example, I mean, I hear a lot of people say that for autonomous vehicles, let's say, they need certain visual cues on the road, and a decent bit of infrastructure to basically operate autonomously, right? Which at this point largely are absent in India. But that also brings up the argument, like, people have homes in India. The homes are pretty well organized, just like the US, or the West, anywhere in the Western world. Why can't we bring a general purpose robot or something like that? Or why can't there be, let's say, like a vacuum robot or something of that kind, right? Like that doesn't need to operate in an infrastructure environment that's way different from what we have in the US. And I think the what answers that question though is economic parameters, right? Like, so if you can build a device, and if you can actually hire a help that'll do it for a fraction of the cost of the device, even when you like extrapolate that recurring expense over time. It is hard. The relatively low cost of labor, probably due to the excess supply of labor, makes it hard to justify using most robots at their specific price points currently, right? However, and like even in the industry, I think that's a similar scenario. However, the point to consider though is productivity, right? Like for example, and I think it's an inflection point, because there's a certain point in time when, let's say, a factory can hire like 10,000 people and then produce a certain output. Those 10,000 people are actually bound by the ability or their speed to get things done, and then you can parallelize a lot of things. But then I think there is like an inflection point where a robot can do things significantly faster than humans or certain tasks, that then it will start making sense at any price point within reason, right? Because then you have sort of doubled or tripled or quadrupled your output, which you cannot necessarily do if you employ a whole lot of, if you double your workforce or triple your workforce even, right? So I think that's the inflection point where robots will really proliferate. And I think this will happen first in countries like India and like other upcoming countries. I think this will happen first in the industrial sector, like manufacturing, warehousing, these kinds of places. And then a bunch of years down the line, if there's like a shift in the economic conditions, economics of labor, and I think there are a fair bit of places like for example, back in my village, it's hard to get people. It's simply hard to get people to climb coconut trees and like bring the coconuts down, right? It's just, I mean, it's absurd because there's a lot of people, but then there's just people not going into certain professions anymore. And that has driven the cost of that labor super high. And that's fertile ground for a robot to come, because it's not replacing any people, right? So that argument is lost, and then people face the pain anyway. So I think it's a more detailed problem than just, hey, there's no infrastructure for it to work, right? It's more nuanced answer than that. Well, yeah, that's a long answer to that question, but yeah, I mean, yeah. But yeah, if people want to actually explore this space, there's a lot of work, robotics related work happening in India. I mean, I would look at this as like two or three different angles, right? Like one is that there is going to be a bunch of robotic work that actually happens in India. This is like the truth, right? You can look to go into those places, or you can look to go into, so just like when there was this whole .com boom in the West, there were certain industries that were like outsourced industries in India, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, all of these places that actually rose. And, that created an economy in itself. It lifted a lot of people, into the middle class as well, the evolution of that industry. Like simple example is the companies like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, all of these people, right? Consulting services. The boom was led by a demand created out in the West. And why is that demand created out in the West? Mainly because like labor is expensive here. So, there's the dynamic. How even in the robotics space, as we improve robots and develop robots, keep improving them, I think there will be such a sort of secondary industry that feeds into the mainstream robotics industry that will be largely outsourced to other countries, right? Because it just makes sense at that point, unless it's a robot making another robot, which I think we are very far from, right? So look for those industries. And you can just contact me. We can dive deeper into like exactly what those industries look like. Seemingly normal industries out there are doing significant work in robotics right now, like that you even don't know of, right? Like for example, look at NVIDIA, Intel, companies that are literally out there hiding in plain sight, are already doing work in robotic applications. So I would just like aggressively urge people to consider those. On top of that, if you really want to get out of India and move to the West and things like that, it depends on which country you want to move to. Well, I've moved to the US, so I can speak a lot about like the specifics of the US. There's many other countries that do robotic stuff, equally well. I really found the student path as a very attractive path to move in, mainly because it gives me a good amount of time to feel the industry, feel the culture, get educated, and things like that. So the educational path is certainly a good path, but then you need to strategically plan your long-term path, right? Long-term solution. You can't just come in as a student and then and then like be the usual way is that people just put themselves in a position to be lucky in a random lottery, which is the H-1B lottery, and then if they don't get it a few number of times, then they either have to resort to certain patchwork kind of means, like going for a second master's to maintain status, or it's literally game over where they go back to their countries, right? So I was in one such position, right? Like where repeatedly my H-1B was not getting picked because it was a damn random lottery, and which has no semblance to like what kind of merits I had in the work that I did, which is weird. But anyway, I can't necessarily keep being upset about a certain immigration system if I have to wade through it. So I look for different paths. Well, I don't know if I'm answering multiple questions at once now.
Yeah. Still, but I think it's relevant to know, to audience to know that these are some of the things that they might face as a hurdle while moving to you.
So I had to figure out this path called the O1 path, where it was not necessarily a lottery, but the bar was significantly higher, and I had to do groundbreaking work, like actual work that helped me prove eventually that I have indeed risen to the top of a certain field, and then gotten acclaim in that field and sustained acclaim in that field, right? Like, so that is the kind of things that you need to prove to qualify for this, what they call extraordinary ability visa. So that was the O1. So I started working tirelessly to towards that, and the benefit is like right next to it, what stands is like an extraordinary ability green card, which is a permanent solution to your problems, right, or to your immigration problems, right? Because people usually that come from India, they have an issue where they have to wait through the regular green card path, which is the second or the third preference green card that companies usually file. They wait about, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 years. There's no clear timeline to when they'll actually get their green cards. And all that while they are tied to a certain sponsor, which means they can't work multiple jobs, however skilled they are, like in general. It comes with a whole lot of like issues, right? Like there's a lot of like stamping requirements when you travel. You have to plan everything about your travel like really meticulously, so you don't fall into those issues. And God forbid, if there's like an economic event like a layoff or like a recession and things like that, people lose jobs, then since you are tied to your employer, you basically are out of sight and you have to leave at that point. So it's not necessarily just a bearing on your job and your financial situation, but also your presence in the country and of your family thereof as well, right? So there's a lot of things that are like extremely constrained being on like a visa like the H-1B. So that's why I think everyone should at least consider right the possibility of going into this special green card category called the EB1A, which is basically the extraordinary ability path, or the first preference, extraordinary ability first preference, employment-based first preference path for people with extraordinary ability. And that's the path that I took. I mean, when I took that path, did I know that I would actually qualify and like get that green card? The answer is no. but I knew that I could put in the right work to rise to the top of my field and actually qualify for this. And I did that tirelessly, right? And there were certain strategic things that are important to know, which I've compiled as a part of my program that's out there.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that people generally not take into consideration, something like the immigration part of it and how the green card works or how the H1B lottery system works, and then that issue come later on that stage. But since you mentioned that there is a couple of ways that you can try, and one could be how, while you can prove yourself be exceptional person in that category or that field, uh, I think what you are planning to do with your program, that will be helpful for the people who are looking forward to make that transition into the US or the Western countries in a way, because uh, definitely people have had their problem before as well, but this could be something which is going to be very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is where we are at the end of the podcast, and I really liked all the information that we discussed about the robotics space, the AI and autonomous space, and while also how one can apply to the companies which are in US, or maybe how they can settle by getting a green card permanent status. Uh, if Simon, if you want to add any last words to that.
Um, yeah, that's I mean, I think the future is bright. Future is like optimistic in general, no matter like us getting sucked into the negativity of like what's happening around, what's happening in the very, very small sort of pixel level resolution that we are looking at the world from. I think largely from like being in the tech space and looking at all the advancements, I think the future is indeed bright. Where we can do much better as humans, where we can do much better as humans in general. So yeah, I mean, I keep posting a lot on LinkedIn and Instagram and things like that. So please feel free to follow me and just send me questions, send me hard questions that like I can help answer to help you with your career, or about the robotics and AI space in general, or like technology in general, whatever it is. Like happy to address people's questions out there.
Yeah, I think this is a great piece of advice, and definitely I would recommend you to reach out to Simon. I will put his LinkedIn link in the description box below as well, below the like button. You can check that out. And I have known him to be a very humble person. He is very, I would say, prompt in replying you as well. So whatever doubts that you have with this space, and you can take on from his experiences, from his learnings, because he has been in this space for so long. And has a better view of understanding how things function and work. So yeah, please reach out with your questions, with things that you had in your mind. And also thank you so much, Simon, for taking out this time and sharing all of these journeys in so much simple words to me as well, and for the audience. I really enjoyed our conversation and loved the way that how things have progressed in the way, and I could look for more robotics as a space outside India and in India as well. So yeah, that's the hope. To the audience listening in, I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.